Welcome to Kaywon Action Star. At an opera house in Budapest, hitman Joe blends in as a regular theatergoer while keeping a close eye on his target, who is surrounded by bodyguards. As the audience settles in and the show begins, Joe discreetly moves upstairs. Minutes later, a bodyguard spots a disturbance behind a curtain and goes to investigate, only to be ambushed by Joe, who swiftly kills him with a knife and hides the body. Joe then proceeds down the corridor, eliminating another bodyguard with a gun before locating his target on a balcony. The man, realizing his fate, desperately offers Joe triple his current payment to spare him, but Joe remains unmoved and shoots him in the head. The target's state remains frozen in fear, while another woman panics and flees. Joe briefly locks eyes with Maze, the star of the show, before making his way out. However, as he leaves, he begins to experience a sudden headache and dizziness, an unsettling sensation he cannot ignore. Downstairs, another bodyguard notices the fleeing woman and, unable to contact his boss, rushes to investigate. He stumbles upon the bodies of his fallen colleagues, and just as he processes the gruesome scene, security spots Joe with a gun. As the officers prepare to arrest him, the bodyguard opens fire, managing to take down one officer before another calls for backup. Seeking cover, the bodyguard hides on a balcony, but when an officer pursues him, he shoots through the door, taking him out. Suddenly, the theater lights come on, exposing the chaos. With no other option, the bodyguard leaps from the balcony, landing in the middle of the stage. The sudden action sends the audience into a frenzied panic, causing them to rush for the exits. Amidst the commotion, Maze is pushed to the ground, her phone slipping from her grasp as people trample over her. Seeing this, Joe instinctively helps her up, retrieving her phone as well. Once outside, he sets her down but is once again overcome by a debilitating headache. As Maze is momentarily distracted, Joe vanishes into the night. Upon returning home, Joe realizes he still has Maze's phone. Seeking relief, he takes medication with copious amounts of alcohol before heading to bed. The following day, he visits a doctor, who conducts a series of tests and theorizes that Joe might be suffering from long-term effects of head trauma. While awaiting the test results, the doctor advises him to consider retiring from his line of work. Later, Joe meets with his handler and close friend, V, who echoes the doctor's concerns, suggesting that Joe take a break and perhaps even meet someone special. After much internal debate, Joe decides to return Maze's phone at her dance studio. She is grateful and, with a flirtatious smile, gives him her number. Initially, Joe discards the number, but he quickly regrets it and retrieves it from the trash. That evening, he awkwardly texts Maze, leading to a date. Over dinner, they share an enjoyable evening, though Joe refrains from revealing his true occupation. As the days pass, Joe balances his growing relationship with Maze and his work as a mercenary, traveling to various locations such as France, Romania, Austria, and Switzerland for assignments. Their bond deepens, and they begin spending nights together. However, Joe's headaches persist, and his medication proves increasingly ineffective. When his test results finally arrive, the doctor delivers devastating news: Joe has a neurodegenerative brain disorder with no cure, leaving him with only 3 months to live. In shock, Joe declines palliative care and therapy, instead opting to research his condition online. He finds distressing footage of patients losing control of their bodies, confirming that his fate is sealed. Overwhelmed, he contemplates ending his life but stops himself, thinking of Maze. Determined to secure her future, he opens a hidden safe, gathers all his money, and disposes of his weapons in the river. The next day, Joe meets with V and offers $2 million for his own assassination, wanting Maze to receive the life insurance payout. However, V refuses, unwilling to put a hit on his best friend. Left with no choice, Joe seeks out Antoinette, a former assassin-turned-handler. Her bodyguard, Max, is infamous for his brutality. Antoinette holds a deep grudge against Joe, as he had killed her father, a man who had once mentored him. Seizing the opportunity for revenge, she agrees to place a contract on Joe's head but sets the activation time for midnight. Once Joe departs, Antoinette selects the hitman for the job through an assassin app. The contract first reaches Lovedal in Switzerland, but he dismisses it, deeming the payout insufficient. The message then goes to Go Young and his gang in Prague. They reveal themselves as hitmen by killing their karaoke bar targets in mere seconds. Go Young eagerly accepts Joe's contract. Antoinette, to ensure success, also sends the offer to the Langos brothers, who are in the midst of gruesomely executing a man by tying him to their motorcycles and pulling him apart. That night, Joe takes Maze on a final date, unaware that Max is trailing them. He breaks up with her, leaving her heartbroken. After one last kiss, Maze walks away in tears. Joe returns home, drinking heavily while recording a farewell message for Maze, detailing his illness and true identity. However, he accidentally sends the message before finishing it. Meanwhile, his doctor calls with shocking news: Joe's test results had been mixed up with another patient's. He is perfectly healthy and has many years left to live. Stunned, Joe scrambles to prepare for the imminent attack, setting traps around his apartment. At midnight, Go-young and his gang arrive, skillfully avoiding Joe's laser sensors. Joe, still hidden, announces that he is canceling the contract, but Go-young refuses, citing the assassin's code. A brutal fight ensues, with Joe taking down the gang one by one, using knives, glass shards, and sheer force. The battle culminates in Joe killing Go-young with a blade he pulls from his own shoulder. Before leaving, he lights Go-young's cigarette as a final farewell, then detonates explosives, destroying his home and killing the last remaining gang member. Determined to cancel the contract, Joe calls Antoinette, allowing her to keep the money but demanding that she call off the hit. Enraged, Antoinette refuses and doubles the bounty, sending the mission to Europe's most elite assassins. Meanwhile, Joe seeks refuge with V, who patches up his wounds. With no firearms at hand, V provides Joe with leftover explosives from a past job. V's wife also assists by giving Joe an intense massage, which miraculously alleviates his headaches. Meanwhile, Antoinette's cousin, Manny, is sent to pick up Lovetal, who has now accepted the $4 million contract. They head to Maze's location to use her as leverage against Joe, but Maze quickly overpowers Manny. Lovetal, however, knocks her unconscious and abducts her. The next morning, Joe lures the assassins to an abandoned castle as part of his trap. He faces off against the Mackenzie brothers, using traps, armor, and brute strength to take them down. The battle escalates as the party girls arrive, attacking with a hail of bullets and grenades. Joe uses their own weapons against them, cleverly eliminating them one by one. He then encounters Potash, a skilled assassin who fights with rhythmic precision. The two engage in an intense duel until Joe activates a hidden explosive, reducing Potash to nothing but his signature boots. Outside, Lovetal and Max arrive with their forces. Maze, having regained consciousness, manipulates Manny and escapes. As Lovetal confronts Joe, Maze drives a stolen car straight into him, allowing them to escape. On the road, Joe finally confesses everything to Maze, including his mistaken diagnosis. She then reveals that she is pregnant, making Joe more determined than ever to survive. Their journey leads them to a secluded church, a refuge from the relentless pursuit of assassins. Joe, battered and desperate to ensure Maze's safety, pleads with the priest to marry them. The priest, an elderly man with a kind yet skeptical gaze, hesitates, noting their lack of proper documentation and the unconventional nature of the request. However, upon seeing Joe's sincerity and the urgency of their situation, he agrees, on the condition that they first confess their sins. Joe, for the first time, lays bare his past, recounting the lives he has taken and the weight of his actions. Maze, though shaken, stands by his side, reaffirming their commitment to each other. Just as the priest prepares to officiate the ceremony, gunfire erupts, shattering the fragile moment of peace. Lovetal and Max, leading a squad of mercenaries, storm the church, determined to claim the bounty on Joe's head. A vicious firefight ensues, with Joe using the pews and pillars for cover as he picks off enemies one by one. Maze, despite her injuries, proves to be just as fierce, using her quick reflexes and sharp instincts to hold her own. The priest, caught in the crossfire, is wounded, adding to the chaos. In the midst of the battle, Joe and Lovetal face off in brutal hand-to-hand combat, each man pushing himself to the limit. Meanwhile, Max, relentless in his pursuit, closes in on Maze. Just as he is about to deal a fatal blow, she seizes a nearby gun and, with a steady hand and unwavering resolve, delivers the final shot, ending Max's reign of terror. While the church still echoes with the aftermath of the fight, V tracks down Antoinette, finding her in the midst of packing her belongings, attempting to flee the country. Without hesitation, V delivers swift justice, avenging Joe's betrayal by putting a bullet in her head. Sometime later, with the chaos behind them, Joe and Maze stand in the same church, now filled with friends and allies, ready to begin their new life together. The priest, recovered from his wounds, presides over a proper wedding, blessing their union. As they exchange vows, there is a fleeting sense of peace, of a new beginning. However, as the reception winds down, Maze leans in with a playful yet knowing smile and whispers that raising a child is expensive. Joe chuckles, understanding the implication. Retirement may have to wait a little longer. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you're yet to do so.